All right, so exposure. Tons of different things when we're talking about exposure. So we'll talk about this in lecture on Monday, but you're essentially, mainly your exposure is dealing with iris versus shutter speed. Now, if you think about it, in video, our shutter speed is going to stay the same, right? For the most part. We're going to be shooting in the frame rate that we're going to be shooting in, and that's what's important. So typically when we're dealing with this kind of exposure, like in photography, we're talking about changing the iris. So that's one way to switch it, and I'll walk you through exactly where each of these things are. There's gain. This pen is terrible. Which we talked about gain in studio, how it's that digital enhancer. Well, it also works for in video images as well, and we'll show you where that is. There's also what's called an ND filter, which is kind of like sunglasses for the camera. It's kind of what I've always said. It adds physical filters in front of the lens to dim it down a little bit. So ND filters are really great outside. That's why I call them sunglasses. And there's 3 levels of them, which we'll talk through exactly how to use them appropriately. I feel like I'm forgetting one. Gain, filter, portrait. Okay, so iris. The iris on these particular cameras is this furthest ring. The smallest ring will open and close the iris. That one right there. Now, it could be on automatic iris. Let's see. Which there's a button in the bottom that says iris above it in the bottom left-hand corner that switches it from automatic. Open and close there. So that's lightening and darkening the image just using the iris. So the iris is that pinhole that opens bigger or smaller depending on what the setting that you have there. And there's numbers tagged to this, and we'll talk about this on Monday more in terms of how do you practically use those numbers. But nonetheless, iris, you can open and close the hole to let in more light or take out less light.
So iris is just like brightness.
It's just like brightness.
What does the iris button do?
So the iris button changes it from automatic iris to manual iris. So if it's not actually changing, if you're turning the wheel, just hit that button and it'll switch it to manual. You're gonna want to be in manual because you're not gonna want this changing over the course of your shot. Certainly, if you're shooting like an interview or something where the camera is stationary and not moving, there's no reason to have your iris switching and changing the whole time during your shot. So shoot in manual unless you're going handheld and shooting outside and it's getting a little crazy. Manual is always going to be the best choice. Cool. Sweet. Okay, gain. Gain is, once again, that digital enhancer that just ups the ante on the shot. Now let me show you what this looks like. Gain is dirty. You see all this like graininess and it's like moving? That's the gain. So that's like the result of the process.
Like compared to film?
Yes. I mean, yeah, you could say it looks kind of filmy, but I guarantee you when you sit in an editing bay and look at this stuff, you will not be pleased. Now, there are reasons why that's happening, not really important for what y'all will be doing, but don't use this most of the time. I mean, there's going to be some situations where, if you're shooting a concert at night in a really, really dark space and you got a light, it's still not enough, okay, flip up the gain maybe one stage here. But if not, I would leave it alone as much as you possibly can. The trick is it's this switch. So next to the white balance, we had another switch that has that gain button that leads down to L, M, and H. So that's low, medium, and high. So if you're flipping this switch, yep, up and down. That's where you're flipping the gain. Now this is this is a huge gotcha for most students. Because they'll just take the camera out of the bag and put it on the tripod and start shooting. Well, the gain's flipped all the way up. They do their whole shoot. They come back to the editing bay and they're like, why does it look so like Holocausty and grainy? And then the AI is like, no, not good. You're going to have to go reshoot that. So this is a huge gotcha. So make sure to be checking this every time you get the camera out. Because no one wants to live on Caprica, right?
Yeah, one like walks.
Sweet. Okay, last one here is the ND filter. So once again, it's that sunglasses for the camera. So if you're outside, you've got everything appropriately set, or maybe you have this as dim as you possibly can have it, you can use the ND filter to change a bit. So you can see it's physically getting darker. 3 is a bit extreme, and obviously we're inside, so if you're going to wear sunglasses inside, it's going to be dark. But that's another big gotcha. You got it out, you good. You don't know, why is it so dark? Well, the ND filter got flipped all the way up.
Is that good for like outdoor stuff?
It's great for outdoor stuff, yeah.
It's like
Is that a good way to
iris.
Sit down.
Is that a good way to simulate darkness indoors, or is
It is a way.
is that kind of like an amateur way?
It
to do
is a
I
way.
was just curious.
Yes. If it works, if it looks right, then yes.
Okay.
These are tools that you
Yeah.
can use. Okay, the last thing when we're talking about exposure is we want to talk about zebras. Now, zebras, I love zebras, and I have all these rules about zebras that you can utilize or not utilize. It's up to you. Can you see the zebras here? No, you can't. So the zebras are set up on mine. No, the zebras are essentially telling you in the viewfinder where the brightest, you see them right there? That's where the brightest spots of the image are.
Zebra.
Are you seeing them?
Oh.
Perfect. So that's basically telling you this is going to be white. This is the whitest of white in these spots. Which is a really, really nice, healthy indicator. We don't have a waveform like Steve does. What are you doing?
She uses a zebra.
Yeah, your switcher's white because it's really bright, right? But it's not totally white.
And the
It's just
shadows.
white kind of in spots where the light's direct. Yes. So that's super good to keep in mind. We don't have Steve here controlling that brightness for us and looking at a histogram and adjusting. That's all you. You got to do this now. So you always want some zebras in the shot. If you don't see any zebras, it's probably going to be too dark. It's probably going to be really dark, actually. But at the same time, you don't want like zebras all over the place, right? Like I've got this whole wall. This is all zebraed right here. Lots of zebras up here. Certainly zebras here.
So how much?
It's
Like,
just blown out.
20%, like.
So that's a good rule of thumb. Now it is worth noting you can change what the zebras do. So the zebras are saying, hey, the top 10% of all the brightness will be zebras. You can go into the settings and change that to like 20 or even 30 to show more zebras. But generally it's going to be set around 10 or 15%
Okay.
in terms of brightness. But, it's up to you how you really want to use that. So some of the rules that I've used in my old job is like zebras can swim in the pool, they can fly in the sky, they shouldn't be on people's faces, they shouldn't be in the grass. You generally, you want white things that are in bright light to be zebraed. So it's a good way to utilize your zebras. But we all find the zebra button, so oftentimes they won't be there. You just have to hit that number 4, that zebra button. Yep, perfect. Good. Zebras are your friends. Do not neglect them. They need to be fed. I don't know. Bad joke. Okay, last thing. Focus.